Welcome to the Love of the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105 through the Fan in Dallas, joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL scout Brian Broaddus. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday on 105 through the Fan in Dallas. He is also the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network, and he is coming to you from his pennant-adorned man cave, and I am coming to you from my echoey new apartment that has all these wood floors. We're still unpacking, so hopefully that's some of the acoustic helping it. The boxes. Hopefully it's not just like aggressively bouncing everywhere. But if it is, just be patient, guys, and we'll have it corrected here shortly. Brian, how's it going?
It's going well, Bobby. Thank you very much. Man, game week basically already here, right? What we're looking at right now.
Yeah.
Was looking at
Today's
the Seahawks.
Friday, right? Yeah. Tuesday's Friday.
Tuesday's Friday. Looked at the Seahawks today. Have some thoughts about them. Shaq Leonard visiting.
Yeah, not Shaq Lawson. Shaq Lawson's about to get suspended.
punching fans in the chest. But good week of getting ready for a really good opponent for the Cowboys.
Well, let's dive into the Shaq Leonard stuff first, and then next segment we'll.
What do you know?
Well, I think, and we'll start with Shaq Leonard. We'll dive into a little bit of the Seahawks next segment, and then we'll have a deeper preview on the next one. But here's the thing with Shaq Leonard, I find it concerning a little bit that he's leaving. I do. It does give me some pause whenever you've got a guy who's leaving the building, and I understand evaluating your options and doing everything else. It's just typically it's not the norm for them to leave the building to go on their tour and they come back and go, all right, I'm back in the building now and I'd like to sign. That's just not the norm for how things go. But it sounded like from Jerry Jones when we talked to him on 105 through the Fan on Tuesday morning, it sounded like they had made up their minds that they were willing to spend the money. They believed in the player. They didn't have any questions about that. Brian, it sounded like this was all going to come down to medicals for them.
Yeah, and I think they got the answers that they needed to on the medicals. There were some questions about the disc in the back. There were some questions about some nerve things, some nerve issues that he's dealing with. They got that kind of taken care of. So, yeah, they got an opportunity to sit down with the player. The coaches got to visit with him. Medical staff got to visit with him. Jerry Jones got to visit with him. If he had anything other than the Wagyu burger for lunch at the Cowboy Club, he probably was making a mistake. But other than that, this was going to be what I'm realizing now is I thought that, don't let him leave the building. He was going to leave the building anyway.
Regardless.
He was going to. There's two teams that are interested. Dallas got the first crack at him, and good for them. They got to put their best foot forward. I'm sure Adam Pacifica is working on some contract stuff right now with his agent, and they'll figure things out. But I don't look at it as a negative. I know you're competing against a team that is in your division, is leading the division right now, is actually leading the NFL in victories. But we'll see. I never doubt the Cowboys when it comes to these types of situations. I guarantee you they did everything in their power to, now people are like, well, could be like the mafia, and I probably shouldn't say that, but
no, go ahead.
This is kind of like, the old Godfather movies, make him an offer he can't refuse.
Yeah.
I think there's some limits
without a horse's head.
Exactly. I think there's certain things. I think the Cowboys can offer more than the Eagles right now. I really do. If you look at if you just base it on cap,
that's what Jerry made it sound like. Jerry made it sound like he did not think there was going to be competition with their money.
Nope. And so if the medical staff, Jim Maurer, Britt Brown, Dr. Cooper, all the medical staff over there, if they signed off on the player, then by all means, let's go. And if they lose out to the Philadelphia Eagles, well, they lost out because Shaq Leonard wanted to play for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, that's where he was going because money and everything else. Dallas should be in Dallas's favor.
Dallas is competitive. Dallas will be competitive in this, and if he's chasing a ring, you know what? Hey, Philadelphia has the upper hand right now. By all means, they do. But if you look at the situation, if you really want to play, and you want to potentially play to the point where you maybe get a contract offer next year because of how well you play, this defense with the Cowboys is a good one to be in. And the Eagles defense is good too. Don't get me wrong. But if he sits down with the legal pad and writes all the positives on the left side and all the negatives,
the notes app on his iPhone. Yeah.
Well, whatever. Yeah. But if he does that, I guarantee you there are going to be a lot more positives about the Cowboys than negatives. And if he goes to Philadelphia, that's the choice that he made because he's chasing something else.
I know the discussion was he was a 2-down player at Indianapolis. Do you think he's a 2-down player? Do you think he's a 2-down player in Dallas?
Hell no. I mean,
he's immediately their best linebacker.
You look at Indianapolis and the situation that and Chris Ballard and you got a new head coach there, and in the ownership there's gets involved in a lot of ways, but that comes down to what you're looking at with the Colts is they're looking to play guys that they drafted. They're looking to play guys that, and Chris Ballard was part of getting Shaq Leonard, getting him here and stuff like that. But, there comes a point in time where new coaching staff comes in and they're like, well, let's play our guys. Let's play Zaire Franklin a little bit more in this game, or maybe even EJ Speed is it? I mean, I'm just,
or Gary Brackett.
Yeah, exactly. Why Gary Brackett? What are you doing? But that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's all of a sudden you're talking about playing. You're talking about playing other guys, and and maybe it's some of the stuff too that new coach, and maybe the new coach didn't like the fact that he was kind of squawking a little bit about playing time, and these coaches are kind of the guys, and I'm not talking about like a guy like Gus Bradley, because I think Gus Bradley's a good guy, good coach. I don't think Gus Bradley wanted to get rid of Shaq Leonard. Just like Jack Del Rio didn't want to get rid of Chase Young and Montez Sweat. It's what happens after he gets rid of those guys. He gets fired, you know? So I just kind of feel like that the general manager, the coach, new coach, probably in a situation, like I said, he says, when I want to play these other guys, I don't like guys squawking. I want to play power trip guy here, and that's what they did. So, and it might be, let's say they owe him money. His contract, it was a sizable one. But, for him to take him off the field on third downs, I didn't get that. I've never got that from him. It was, there was always people that when you watched him play, the one thing that you could count on was his length and his ability to make plays. Now, you could look at the numbers, targeting numbers. People have targeted him a little bit. People have had some success against him, when you look at those numbers. So if they're pulling him off the field because of that, I can understand it. But they're also probably the possibility of him squawking a little bit, and that's what kind of did them in.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. He's not the same player that he once was, but he's still a very good player. And of course, there are questions about his health.
He would help this team.
Yeah, he absolutely. He helps this team more than if Odell Beckham would have been healthy and stepped in and played for the Cowboys last year.
Yes,
and so he's a real difference maker at a spot where they need a difference maker. Now you bring up the juxtaposition of Dallas versus Philly that he's going to have to look at here.
Yeah.
How far apart do you believe the Cowboys and the Eagles are right now? Because the Eagles are best record in the NFL. But Brian, I keep fighting this fight, and I don't care that everybody says I'm being biased about it or whatever else. It has nothing to do with Dallas to me. This Eagles team does not look like the same Eagles team to me that played last year. I think that there's a little bit of you look at the last 2 weeks, the games they've won. Kansas City played a better football game. I thought Buffalo played a better football game than Philadelphia. They win both those games. Philadelphia struggles in 2 games against Washington, struggles against New England, loses to the Jets. I think there's a vulnerability about the Eagles that is being under-discussed, undersold. And if you're just putting them on a even play and saying, all right, or you're looking at them and trying to compare them and say, who's in a better position right now? Who's playing better football right now? I have a tough time saying it's Philadelphia that's playing better football.
Man, I tell you what, I don't know how you don't give them credit for going to Kansas City and winning a damn game, Bobby.
It's great. It's great.
They beat Buffalo.
It's going to run out.
You know what? Fine. If that's what you believe, they're 10-1 right now. And I'm not saying that because people say, oh, you work there and all that BS. I'm not. No.
What's that Eagles pennant behind you, Brian?
What's the Cowboys pennant behind me too? What's the Green Bay pennant behind me?
I'm kidding.
All these things. You're full of S, and you know it. The thing about it is, though, I cannot listen. And Cowboy fans hate me for this. You know, I understand it. You hate the Eagles more than anything. You do not want to give the Eagles credit for anything. I get it, Cowboy fans. Every bone in your body will not allow you. But I'll tell you what, you'd give anything right now to be 10-1, whether you're winning games by 1 or 101, or you're looking. The one thing that quarterback has done is he's found ways to make plays at the end of the game. Now, whether the teams they played have fallen apart, Dallas fell apart on the goal line. Kansas City dropped passes. Buffalo missed a play down there that could have won them the game. You know what? Say what you want. Voodoo, whatever you want to call it, good luck, bad luck, I don't care. But these teams, Bobby, these teams find ways to win games.
They do. They
absolutely do.
That's important. But Brian, there's also they're
not as good in the secondary. They're not as good in the secondary as they've been.
No. You beat bad teams generally. The best teams in the NFL typically over the last, if you look at the numbers over the last 30 years, they beat down really bad teams and they find ways to win against good teams. Philly's winning all their games, finding ways to win against good or bad teams. It's the same performance regardless of the opponent. And so that's the concerning thing that I'm like, I don't think that's sustainable when you get into the playoffs. That's going to catch up to you. That's the only thing I would look at there.
They beat San Francisco. Next week, you change your tune completely.
I would, but I think there's zero chance they beat San Francisco.
And I thought there was zero chance that they probably beat Buffalo. And I thought there was zero chance they beat Kansas City. And I thought there was zero chance that they beat Dallas.
That's true. Know? Well, not zero chance they beat Dallas.
Well, yeah. Dallas can play with them. Dallas can't play.
Dallas is scared of San Francisco.
Dallas can't play against San Francisco.
Yeah. Dallas isn't scared of Philly.
No, Dallas is not scared one bit of Philadelphia, but they're 10-1. You know, and I will say that you could talk about, this is the Minnesota Vikings of last year.
That's what I said. I didn't say it like that though.
You did. You're kind of squirmy BS guy that you are.
Say it, Brian. Say "Fly Eagles Fly" for us.
I'm not going to say it. I mean, because the one year I worked there, I told people I wasn't from Dallas. I told people I was from Waco and Austin and other towns in Texas. I'm just, you know what? And fans won't give them credit, but trust me,
they're a good team. They're a good team. They're not as good as they were last year.
You would give your right, you know what? And I'm sorry for the female listeners that are both, whatever you want. You'd give anything to be 10-1 right now and winning the division and winning and having the conference, to the point now where we're talking about, well, Cowboys might not have a chance to win this division. We're doing segments, Bobby, where we're talking about the Cowboys trying to hang on to the 5th seed. That's what we're talking about right now. We're not even talking about, it's because
there's nobody who home field advantage matters for more right now than the Cowboys.
No question.
That's a different team at AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, but can the Cowboys beat Philadelphia? They absolutely can.
Here's what I'd say. If you gave me the option of playing Philly at the Link in the playoffs or playing San Francisco at AT&T Stadium,
are you on drugs?
I would take Philly at the Link. over the 49ers at AT&T Stadium.
You think you think that San Francisco is just that much better, don't you?
I just think San Francisco's I think San Francisco's in this team's head.
You think San Francisco's the best team in the NFC, don't you?
Yeah. I think San Francisco's the best team in the NFC. I think Baltimore's probably the best team in the AFC.
You're probably right about that.
So, we'll see.
But see, that's what I'm saying. The Philadelphia Eagles thing, I understand, fans. You know what? Hey, I totally get it. You can't give them any credit for anything. I got in arguments with people about refereeing in the game. And it's not even your damn team. It's not even your team, Cowboy fans. You are fighting like, damn, the Eagles, the Buffalo got screwed. Buffalo got screwed. All these, guys, trust me, I've been doing this a long time. These officials, they don't give an F about you. They don't give an F about me, okay? And I used to say this all the time. They would make bad calls. They'd F up my life. I would get fired, and they would move on to the next city. I get it. And you're like, well, you're from an era where you just accept authority.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Challenge authority. Come on, Brian.
Yeah. This ain't John Cougar Mellencamp. I fight authority. Authority always wins.
Cougar Mellencamp.
Well, that's what everybody's treating it like. I'm just telling you. I am totally all right. I'm just telling you right now. It doesn't matter about these officials. They are going to F up everybody's life. Okay? And yeah, you don't have to accept it, and you could be all, well, God, they got worked in this game. You know what?
They did.
They've been working teams for 100 years in NFL. You know what?
Bills got worked.
My guy Sean Payton got worked in a playoff game. Got worked for a chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
By officials. What do you think, you hear him bitching about officiating and all that?
He kind of did after that game.
He should have.
He did a little bit. Yeah, he should have. Look, Buffalo got worked by the officials. Philadelphia is the 2022 Vikings. These are all true things. And ultimately, hopefully, Shaq Leonard sees that and goes, I'd rather be a Dallas Cowboy, Brian. You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast, the Love of the Stars and Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Brian, before they get Shaq Leonard, they got to worry about the Seattle Seahawks.
They do. They
got the Seahawks coming up here. And like I said, we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive into the Seahawks. But I want to take a look at the offense first.
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to be the biggest way, especially this passing game, that's going to challenge Dallas in this game. What the Seahawks
that depends on if Walker. That depends on if Walker plays for Seattle. Of them maybe running the ball.
Yeah,
him or Charbonneau. I mean,
man, they're so good in their receiving core.
No, the receiving core is what's the problem. And I was on a couple of platforms today talking about that. This game will come down to, can you do exactly what the San Francisco 49ers did to the Seattle Seahawks last week? Can you completely shut down their receivers, which they did a great job. They smothered those Seahawks receivers is what they did. Are you good enough to do that? Can you? And I kind of feel like that, you've got one guy that I know can smother, that when you look at, when you look on the outside with Bland, he's the one guy that can smother. But how well is Jordan Lewis going to play in this game? And how well is Gilmore going to play? That's going to be the key. Yeah. And can your safeties find a way to not take any bad angles and be able to cover in this game? You're going to have to be ready for some deep shots from Metcalf, and then everything else with Lockett and then Smith and Jigba. It's going to be kind of underneath, quick movement kind of stuff, find space, catch the ball, get upfield. That's how they're going to play in this game. Deep shots and that underneath stuff with Smith and Jigba and the other guy.
Which Gilmore played well, I thought, in the Washington game. I thought he was pretty good on Thanksgiving, better than we've seen him play.
He did a great job. He did a great job against McLaurin. I think it was one catch, 6 targets.
Yeah, he was good. Strong in that game. Yeah,
he was very strong.
You need a repeat performance there. If Jordan Lewis struggles in this game, if early on they look like they're picking on Jordan Lewis, and you start to struggle a little bit in the secondary, because to me, that's one of the things that we talked about on Tuesday morning on 105 Through the Fan. We were talking about, okay, who needs to step up? Who's big in this game that needs to step up? And to me, it was, the secondary. Like, the secondary's got to be on top of things. If the secondary's on top of things, you'll probably be able to control this game. But if Jordan Lewis struggles, what's the answer? Like, because they can't. I feel like that's going to put them in a precarious situation if they go out there, they let Seattle just continuously pick on Jordan Lewis. There's got to be a response to that. What is the response to? Do you think that's a Wanye Thomas thing? Do you look at trying to, move one of the safeties inside? I thought Wanye Thomas has done a decent job when he's drawn some snaps in the nickel. I think that it obviously hasn't been the same sample size as Lewis, but what we've seen from Wanye Thomas in the nickel, I think, has been better than what we've seen most of the year from Jordan Lewis.
I wonder if it probably not on a short week, but I wouldn't. The one thing I know that Deron Bland can walk in the slot and play right now.
Yeah.
He can absolutely. But are the Cowboys equipped? Are the Cowboys on it wasn't a short week because
last week was a short week. Yeah.
Last week was a short week. This is a full week. There's a side of me that would, if I was an opponent of the Cowboys, and it was really funny how the Commanders went after Bland in that game. If Bland doesn't have the interception, we would all be kind of talking about it was just an okay game for Bland. Maybe not.
He was getting picked on.
Maybe not one of his best.
It felt like he gave up about 10 receptions in this game.
And they tried. I mean, there was times where they tried to double move him, and the football gods were smiling on you because Hankins was, all of a sudden Howell pulls the ball down and Hankins standing right there and he can't throw the ball. You could see on the sideline on the All-22, Eric Bieniemy losing his S because Howell didn't throw the ball down the sidelines to Samuel, on the double move. He's like, we set it up. We set that up. 11 targets, 8 catches, $120. That wasn't one of Bland's better games, but my God, when they did throw the interception at him, what did he do? Played the ball, got the ball, returned the ball. That's something he's been brilliant at. But if you want to be, Gilmore, you're right about Gilmore. He played really well in that game. Probably didn't get enough credit for how he played. But your question is, what's the answer? Can you move Bland in just as a changeup? What do you do on the outside? Does that mean you bring McQuamu onto the outside? Yeah,
that's I would guess so.
You take Jordan Lewis off the field. You would take him off the field, put McQuamu on the outside, and then go to work that way.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess you're not sticking Igbenogany out there.
No, hell no. He's going to be inactive this week. He is every week. So no, they're not doing that.
Now, what is your thought from what you've seen from Seattle? We just talked about the.
By the way, Bobby,
there.
Do we not have a plan? Right? We just kind of said we didn't really have a plan there, right?
No, if they pick on him, if they choose to do that, and you're struggling with it, I think the best course of action might be just stick Wanye Thomas in the slot. I don't know if they would do that. That would take a pretty significant step for them to make that call. But I think that's probably your best bet to stop the bleeding. In the middle of the game. But we know the type of weapons they have, and you just mentioned earlier about Zach Charbonnet and potentially Kenneth Walker, who I believe I think he missed practice again today. But when you look at the weapons they have there, let's talk about Geno Smith specifically. What have you seen on tape from Geno? Geno was a guy who last year some people wondered, all right, was he a flash in the pan a little bit? Was this kind of a one-off? Did he get a random resurgence? And this isn't really who he was. And he started out this year, he looked like, hey, this is going to be a continuation. Maybe not quite the peak that he had last year, but he still has the ability to be a decent quarterback. Maybe it's a Ryan Tannehill type of resurgence. But you look at since week 3, Brian, he has more turnovers than he does touchdowns. It's been a little bit of a struggle for him at times. What have you seen from Geno Smith on tape? Geno
Smith can still throw the ball with some pace on it. He could still, if you watch the game against the Rams the week before, the 49ers just completely took them out of their game offensively. They just really didn't have much of a chance, much like what they did to the Cowboys. Smother the receivers, get pressure, that kind of thing. But against the Rams, more guys were open. He was able to find receivers. He could still throw the ball with, like I say, he could throw it with some pace. He's not afraid to make tight window throws. He could be wildly inaccurate, but when he's on, he can absolutely blister you the way he throws the ball. He gets in a little bit of a rhythm. He's going to run when he gets in trouble. The But what you got to do is if you cover his guys up and then you collapse the pocket around him, he's a big guy. He can be tough to bring down. You got to make sure you get bodies on him. Don't let him run out of the pocket, But he will throw some crazy balls. He's had some interceptions that, when it's really funny when you look at the red zone stuff, which I was able to do. It seems like he likes to throw the ball to DK Metcalf. I think they've thrown it 11 or 12 times down there to him in the red zone. They only have 2 receptions to show for it down there. So they've had some problems. They've had some problems. Their running game, I think, with Walker, I think could be now talking to people in Seattle. This is one of those things where they're kind of looking at the situation with their running backs. He might not practice all week. And then they find a way to play him. If not, Charbonneau is like a straight ahead guy. We were talking about him on the draft show. He got
him coming out of UCLA.
Yeah, UCLA, 500 carries in 2 years for Chip Kelly there. Catches the ball really, really well. He's got a lot of receptions for a back, doesn't have a lot of yards. But, to me, Dallas stopping the running game, I look at Seattle's line, push, shove kind of offensive line. Don't see a lot of real continuity with how they block. It's kind of like they get into you and they kind of like, well, you want to go this way, I'm going to push you that way. They've had some problems at right tackle, but their running backs are capable. If Dallas is going to run around blocks and jump in gaps, the wrong gaps, and not play with some gap integrity or not play down or miss some tackles or go up and weak tackle people, then there'll be some problems there. Dallas is their own worst enemy in the running game when they're playing the run because they'll make some mistakes. But when they're on the screws, Dallas can play great run defense.
Their issues a lot of times seems to be bad reads, bad discipline.
Self-inflicted. A lot of self-inflicted stuff. Yeah.
It's not that they don't have guys that can't cover ground or who can't make the plays physically. It's a lot of times just they low IQ plays.
If you watch the Carolina game, Carolina couldn't run the ball from here to my front door. But you know what they did? They had chunk plays. You know why? Because Dallas played horse S technique on a lot of those runs. They guessed, they went to the wrong gaps, they got turned, they didn't play square, they didn't fill. When Dallas needs to when they need to play with that integrity. But a lot of people say, well, you get Geno Smith throwing the football, that could be the path to victory for you for the Cowboys because he'll make mistakes.
Geno will put the ball in danger. He will absolutely make some throws that put the ball in danger. So before we go to the mailbag really quickly here, Brian, Geno putting the ball in danger, what would you put the percentage chance that we get another Deron Bland pick 6 this week?
I say there's a good chance for an interception. I don't know about the pick 6.
Oh, come on. Don't doubt the man.
No,
if it gets in his hands, he's going to score.
Because you got that DK Metcalf that can run guys down.
See, now you do have that. We have seen DK catch the guy on the run back.
That big son of a gun will run you down in a heartbeat.
But, he's about 260 and runs a 4.1.
Yeah, it's incredible. The Cowboys have played very, very well at home when it comes to playing team defense. They get turnovers. They get sacks. They put pressure on you. This will be this will be a great test for them just because of these receivers. Because Bobby, I don't have an answer if all of a sudden, they get those 2 small receivers going in this game. I don't have an answer for that. I think when you talk about Metcalf, the vertical game, you got to be able to run with him. You got to be able to, stay in position so the ball, can be contested. But that's what the 49ers did, man. They contested every ball, and it made it tough. And I think the Cowboys at times are capable of doing that. But if they start to fall apart a little bit with Jordan Lewis, then there could be some issues there.
4 straight victories for the Seahawks in the regular season matchup. Of course, we know Dak Prescott and the Cowboys won the wild card round game in 2018 at AT&T Stadium against the Seattle Seahawks. You are listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, it is now time for our Dean Julia Love the Star mailbag. It's where we turn things over to our dear, sweet listeners to get their thoughts, get their questions in here. First one here from Stacy. Stacy wants to know, the offense has changed dramatically since the bye week. That's something we've all seen. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's been more input from Schottenheimer on play calls? We've talked about Dak and McCarthy and and how we think that they've had a hand in what's gone on. Do you think any of this has been Brian Schottenheimer influence at all?
Yeah, and Stacy, thanks for your question. Loyal follower, great questions.
Stacy's great.
Always comes up with really good content. So thank you very much for listening to our broadcast. I think that Schottenheimer has had a big hand in what's going on here. When you look at and I'm bullish on Cowboy offense right now, and I'll tell you why I'm bullish on Cowboy offense. When you watch the All-22, the route combinations, the way of getting Jake Ferguson straight up the slot by using Turpin, or the way to get Turpin the touchdown when you run Cooks and Ferguson on the outs, that makes the defense move that direction, and all of a sudden now the corner on the hash can't get over because the corner's not on the hash, and that touchdown, it was Curl was down in the box, and they tried to be really cute and show Dak a blitz, and Dak's like going, you don't have a safety behind my guy who's about to run a 40-yard dash past all you guys. So to me, the creativity with the combinations of the routes, the picks, the rubs, the things that they've been able to do, the screen game. God, that was a beauty of a screen pass.
Yeah,
those are
great job by Zach Martin there.
Well, Martin and how about this? How about
Ambiotish?
Yeah, or how about a play? How about the 3rd and 6 run play? The 3rd and 6 run play to Pollard that he got 14 yards. What do? They bring CeeDee Lamb in motion. They start him instead of going opposite. They bring him out. He's the lead blocker. They get Ferguson out, they get Cooks out, they get Steele out, they get all these people in space, and then you got the run downhill, for 14 yards.
Yeah,
that's creativity. I found it really interesting when Aaron Rodgers today on the Pat McAfee show, or maybe yesterday.
It was today.
Okay.
When we record this, we're recording this on Tuesday night.
On Tuesday. So anyway, he's talking about watching and he likes the way Dak Prescott's playing. I guarantee you he is watching these games and he's seeing stuff that they ran at Green Bay, and maybe a little bit more of a twist.
He said the Lamb touchdown against Washington was a play they ran in Green Bay.
See, that's what I'm saying. Is he talking about the touchdown, or was he talking about the 2-point play?
I think he was talking about the touchdown, but it could have been.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, but the fact that he's watching Dallas play, I guarantee you he's sitting there thinking, okay, we did that play. Yeah, I see what's about to happen here. But I also guarantee you that Brian Schottenheimer and the others are looking at their offense, and Mike even talked about it. Maybe even Jerry talked about it, of the cross. Oh, no, Stephen Jones. The cross of defensive coaches looking at your tape, the Cowboy and vice versa. Like the Dan Quinn and those guys, like, well, this is how I would attack. This is what they call it, cross the hall meetings. Maybe that's where all of a sudden that they all came to the realization, like, you guys need to do this. We can't cover that. There's no way we could be able to cover that.
Now, did you see who was responsible for the play call for the Brandon Cooks touchdown last week? Did you see who was responsible for that?
No. Who was it?
It was Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks.
We found out. Yeah. We found out in the sounds from the sideline that Cooks was talking on the sideline and had said he was talking to the guys, and he said,
"Yeah, I didn't watch Sound on the sideline. So I'm sorry."
Yeah, he said Coach didn't have the play in there this week. And I went up to him and I said, "Can we put that in, please? I really want that in there." So that was actually Cooks lobbying McCarthy, and McCarthy saying, "All right, we'll put it in there." And then they called it up, and Dak came to the sideline. He said he's going to be trying to call plays the rest of the season. Brandon Cooks is going to be trying to call plays.
But that's a play they've tried to run, and we talked about.
Cooks knew it. Yeah, Cooks knew it would work. Cooks knew it would eventually work. Luck.
Yeah, because they turned the safety. They turned the safety the wrong way. And see, that's what I'm saying. That's a play that they've had in really all season, and bad luck has taken there's been coverage, there's been collisions, there's been all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But it worked. So, yes, Stacey, I hope we answered your question there.
Next question here from Dean Julia. We haven't gotten to Dean's in a little bit. What percentage chance, we talked a little bit about Jordan Lewis there in Seattle. What percentage chance do you think when the first playoff game rolls around that J. Lou will still be starting in the slot and taking the majority of the snaps there? Do you think now this is NFL coaches like to defer to veterans until they can't anymore.
Yeah,
they will go kicking and screaming, especially in playoffs. You want guys that have been there, done that, understand it, everything else. And Jordan Lewis has been here for a very long time and has earned a lot of respect from the coaching staff. So I wouldn't think it's a large percentage chance, but if some of these teams keep picking on them a little bit, the Cowboys' hand may be forced.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going right there. If you have your worry going into the Seattle game is what's going to happen with Jordan Lewis at the slot. Totally understandable. Have a bad game against them. Have a bad game against Philadelphia. Have a bad game against Buffalo. Then all of a sudden, maybe it's two games. Have this be a bad game. Have the next one be a bad game, and then Dan Quinn's going to have to start addressing what they need to do in the slot. That will be the next. That will be the next thing that happen. Hopefully, J. Lou does everything fine. But if it turns into all of a sudden, I can't put a percentage on it, but it's 100% if you see a couple bad games. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is that there's going to reach a point where they can't do anything.
Right.
They can't continue to just let it go. Especially if Wanye Thomas steps up, plays well, or they find other answers.
Yeah.
All right. Last one here from Tony Claiborne. Who is the last man on the roster right now? I'm guessing if Leonard is signed, it will be to the practice squad with 3 call-ups. But once that's done, who's the odd man out? Could it be Deuce? And not necessarily. He may get signed to the active roster right away. That's not necessarily the case. But I don't think Deuce Vaughn would be the last man on the roster. Could it be the guy we were just talking about a second ago, Igbenogany? You think it's Wheat?
I think it's Wheat. And matter of fact, keep an eye on Wheat went into concussion protocol. Mm-hmm. He went into concussion protocol. I don't think this team wants to cut players. I really don't. I think they're looking for every injury angle that could put a guy down for 4 weeks. That's what I think they're looking at right now. I don't think they're interested. Now, Noah makes sense, but if you're feeling good enough about your corners, then, you could probably, maybe move on from him. But I want to think that maybe that Wheat with this just went on today with some concussion questions. I think that maybe that might be we could put him on injured reserve for 4 weeks, and then that's how you navigate.
That does it for us here today on the Love the Star podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back again with another episode, a little bit deeper
tomorrow
dive
night
into the Seahawks tomorrow night. And then we will hopefully have some quick reaction for you guys after the Seattle game, heading into what will be a big matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. And hopefully you'll have Shaq Leonard on your side by that point. For Brian Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. We will talk to you guys again later. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.